Hello there, this is Al24 World News. I'm your host, Abdurrahim Kashur, and these are today's headlines. President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, salutes the Palestinian factions participating in the reunification conference in order to achieve Palestinian national unity. Presidential Council Chairman Mohammed Yunus al-Munfi commended Algeria's noble support for the Libyan brothers, highlighting its essential role in resolving the crisis in his country. The Algerian Prime Minister Mr. Ayman bin Abdulrahman called on Europeans to invest in Algeria's energy sector to increase the country's output and meet the growing demand. Russia's Federal Security Service had detained 5 Russians and 3 citizens of Ukraine and Armenia in connection with the bombing of a vital bridge to Crimea. First, in all topical news, the Algerian President Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune received on Wednesday at the headquarters of the Presidency of the Republic the Libyan Presidential Council Chairman Mohammed Yunus al-Munfi, who is on a 2-day visit to Algeria. Hussein Burkan tackled the story in this report.
Libyan Presidential Council Chairman Mohammed al-Munfi arrived in Algeria for a 2-day visit to discuss political solution to restore stability to Libya. At the headquarters of the presidency, the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, expressed his hope that 2023 will be the year of the solution to the Libyan crisis and the end of the tragedy for the Libyan people.
نأمل كثير بس ربما سنة 23.
We hope that 2023 will be the year of the resolution of the Libyan crisis and will mark the end of the tragedy of the Libyan people, thus allowing this brotherly country to regain its stability, exploit its resources, and move towards development and prosperity.
The President of the Republic continued affirming that Western countries are all convinced of the necessity of leaving the final say to the Libyan people. Libyan Presidential Council Chairman Mohammed Yunus highly welcomed Algeria's noble support for the Libyan brothers, highlighting its pivotal role in resolving the crisis in his country through a unified Arab position at the next Arab Summit.
We talked about the crucial role of Algerian brothers in the upcoming days, especially during the Arab League Summit, in order to have unified Arab position concerning the Libyan issue. In this regard, we rely on the Algerian diplomacy and the wisdom of the President Tebboune.
The Libyan official also emphasized the noble support of Algeria for the Libyan cause to allow the organization of elections as soon as possible.
We highly welcome Algeria's noble support for Libya, position that will help the Presidential Council to organize elections as soon as possible and realization of national reconciliation.
Betting on its historical legacy and its weight at the regional and international levels, Algeria intensifies its diplomatic efforts to solve the crisis in Libya in the hope of achieving a consensus between its parties.
At the outset, it gives me great pleasure.
Still in Algeria, the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, visited the participants in the work of a reunification conference to achieve Palestinian unity. The Algerian President expressed his encouragement for their efforts to achieve this goal that everyone seeks. This work to this conference will be crowned today with the signing of the Algeria Declaration, which will be a solid ground for achieving unity among all Palestinian factions. The residents of Sha'fut's camp for Palestinian refugees, North Al-Quds, announced on Tuesday the start of an open civil disobedience and a protest against the continuous Zionist incursions into the camp. The defiance include the suspension of all camp schools, the closure of shops, and prohibiting the use of cars at night except for emergency cases. In light of the country's recent crises, the French electronic newspaper Orient believes that the Moroccan regime is on the verge of a collapse. The article addresses the fragile social situation and the crumbling economy that Moroccans are experiencing as a result of its consequences. according to the French newspaper, with the latest official figures showing a trade balance deficit of more than 70 million euros. The Moroccan government was exhausted by the shortfall, which was worsened by the energy crisis that hit the world due to the Ukraine-Russia conflict. A group of Sahrawi and Spanish activists, as well as regional organizations supporting the right of self-determination for the Sahrawi people, launched a campaign against the position of Pedro Sanchez, the Spanish Prime Minister, who turned against international legitimacy.
Western Sahara is not for sale. This is the slogan of a media campaign launched by young Sahrawi and Spaniards in order to sensitize Spanish public opinion about the seriousness of the new decision of their Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez against the international legitimacy of the Sahrawi cause. The campaign, which was launched on Twitter by the Sahrawi Central Directorate of the Information and Research Studies and the unions of the Sahrawi students and youth, received a wide audience. It aims at raising awareness of Spanish public opinion about the negative impact of the unexpected decision of Sanchez regarding the conflict in Western Sahara. The organizers called on the Spanish government to correct the decision, which supports the proposal of the Moroccan occupation state. The campaign comes also to express its condemnation of this decision, considering it a betrayal of the Sahrawi people, and to remind Spain of its historical responsibility towards Western Sahara.
And to have a better understanding of this Sahrawi cause, I'm joined live via phone call by Mr. Mawlud Saeed, Sahrawi representative in the United States, Washington, D.C. Mr. Mawlud, hello over there.
Hi, good evening, and thanks for inviting me.
I appreciate
it. I want to congratulate you for the great job that has been done by your channel, despite that was just started not long time ago, and you already made a name for yourself.
Thank you ever so much, Mr. Mawlud. Mr. Mawlud, you are a representative of the Sahrawi people, so how do you read Sanchez's violation of international law at a time that he is one of those whom they call on Russia to respect, or rather to respect international laws? Isn't that a sort of contradiction?
Yeah, there is a lot of hypocrisy and double standard, especially when it comes to the issue of the Western Sahara, where aggression in one place it's aggression in another place, it has another name according to the interest in that region. So it's extremely disappointing, and this is the reason why the Sahrawi people had to suffer for the last 47 years. And by taking this policy of double standard, the only thing that we get, the result, is that the conflict still is there. And definitely this is an important case that proved that the international community, not all the international community, but some countries, the Security Council, because of their double standard, they have been sacrificing the people of the Western Sahara in violation of international law, as you said.
Perfectly understood. Mr. Mawlud, do you think that this campaign against the Spanish Prime Minister will push him to change his position regarding the Western Sahara self-determination, or he is determined to oppose international legitimacy?
Anyway, unfortunately for Spain and for this Prime Minister, they are out of the game. There is no role that Spain can play in the search of a solution, unfortunately. They have aligned themselves to Morocco, and they become like a protectorate of Morocco. I mean, they have been doing whatever are the wishes of Morocco, not just on Western Sahara, but also on things that concern Spain itself. So we're not expecting anything from Spain. And I think there is an element which is very, very important, that the situation have changed since November 13, 2020. The resumption of the war and so on. The Sahrawi people have been, although we support the UN process and the international community efforts, but we are taking our fate in our own hands. So whatever Spain does, Spain right now, what they did is just to take themselves outside of the game.
Perfectly understood. Mr. Mawlud, the world now is changing. We are living under new circumstances based on this war in Ukraine. So do you believe these circumstances will boost the Sahrawi cause or even make it worse?
I think, first of all, boosting the Sahrawi cause, it will depend first on ourselves. And this is something that it's a lesson we took after the failure of the United Nations efforts for 30 years. And they didn't succeed in implementing their commitment. So we took our fate in our hands first. But it's an opportunity also for the international community and to the UN Security Council in particular, and the deciding countries in the Security Council that have been creating the problem. It's time for them now, in order to make logic their position on Ukraine, to take the same position on Western Sahara. So this is, I think, it put the allies of Morocco in a very difficult spot.
Mr. Mawlud Saeed, thank you ever so much for this explanation. You joined me live from USA.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much for hosting me. Thank you.
Now moving on, chairing the opening of the second Algeria-EU Business Forum on Natural Gas and Renewable Energies in the presence of the European Commissioner for Energy, Kadri Simpson, the Algerian Prime Minister, Mr. Ayman Ben Abdulrahman, recalled the country's great potential in terms of oil and gas reserves, which remain more or less unexplored. Mr. Ayman Ben Abdulrahman also called on all European companies and operators in the hydrocarbon sector to work together with Algeria to enable the country to increase hydrocarbon production capabilities, particularly gas, which will guarantee common interest to both sides.
وتعد إمكانات الجزائر من حيث احتياطيات النفط والغاز كبيرة.
Algeria has large potential in terms of oil and gas reserves, but it is still relatively unexplored, especially in the south, west, north of the country and the offshore area. And this is the reason why the intensification of exploration efforts is at the core of our strategy. And investment opportunities are open to our European partners amid the recently discovered gas and oil fields.
وفرص الاستثمار مفتوحة لشركائنا خاصة الأوروبيين.
Gas cooperation is the first central link in this partnership. In the European Union, we are ending our dependence on Russian gas. Now it's time to look to the future. That means finding solutions for the two aspects we now lack in the EU energy system: a significant supply of gas that needs to be replaced, and a reliable international energy partners. And we believe in Algeria we have found both. We believe, however, this is a two-way partnership. As the EU has just lost a trading partner responsible for 155 billion cubic meters of EU's gas supplies, this is one in a lifetime opportunity for gas suppliers like Algeria.
The United Nations General Assembly on Wednesday overwhelmingly condemned Russia's so-called attempted illegal annexation of 4 partially occupied regions in Ukraine and called on all countries not to recognize the move, strengthening a diplomatic international isolation of Moscow since it started Ukraine's military operation. 3/4 of 193 members General Assembly, 143 countries voted in favor of a resolution that also reaffirmed the sovereignty, independence, unity and territorial integrity of Ukraine within its internationally recognized borders. Russia has arrested 8 suspects over an explosion that damaged a strategic bridge linking annexed Crimea to Russia. Moscow blames Ukraine for the blast, while Kiev has not officially confirmed its involvement. Nabil Khazini.
5 days after the fire in the bridge that connects geographically Crimea to Russia, the investigation continues. The Russian Federal Security Service said the attack was masterminded, and Moscow announced it had arrested 5 Russians and 3 citizens of Ukraine and Armenia, all suspected to be in connection with Saturday's bombing. Ukraine, meanwhile, called this a nonsense. Following Russia's revenge after striking the capital, Kiev, President Zelensky of Ukraine asked G7 leaders for more modern and effective air defense systems.
The first point is defense support, air shield for Ukraine. This is a part of security guarantees that are an element of our peace formula.
For NATO, the boost for Ukraine is a priority.
And the message from NATO allies will be that we are steadfast in our support to Ukraine, that we are prepared for a long haul, and that we will support them for as long as it takes.
On the ground, Ukraine announced it gained control of 5 towns in Kherson province. On the other hand, the governor of Donetsk province announced that at least 7 people were killed and 8 others were injured as a result of shelling on a crowded market in the town of Avdiivka. The Russian President Vladimir Putin will travel to Kazakhstan today to participate in 3 summits. He will meet with his Turkish counterpart Recep Tayyip Erdogan to discuss a possibility of dialogue between Moscow and the leading European countries.
Russian President Vladimir Putin said on Wednesday that Russia is not to blame for the sky-high energy prices that Europeans are facing this winter, and blamed the West for fueling a global energy crisis. In a speech at an energy forum in Russia, Putin said that it was developing countries that would pay the highest price in terms of increasing energy costs.
Over the last year alone, the money supply into the EU has grown by about €1 trillion. But the problem is, what will Europe do with this money? It will be the same as with other goods, including food. It will rake in gas from the world market. Consequently, other countries, primarily developing countries, will be forced to overpay for these energy resources.
The Druzhba oil pipeline linking Russia and Germany has been partially shut after a leak was discovered in Poland, the Polish operator said on Wednesday. According to the Polish news agency, at this point, the causes of the leak are unknown. It was detected in a section of the pipe around 70 kilometers from the central Polish city of Plock. The incident comes after 4 leaks were discovered in the undersea Nord Stream gas pipeline from Russia to Germany.
I'm receiving up-to-date information about the cause of the leak. As much as it is identified as of today, you cannot jump to conclusions from every malfunction. We do not know exactly who is behind this leakage, whether it is accidental damage or an act of sabotage.
French refinery workers said the strikes will continue even as the government reassured the public on Wednesday that the petrol shortage at a station will end this coming days. The French government on Wednesday ordered some staff at the ExxonMobil workshop back to work and warned a Total Energies depot could be next, risking a wider conflict with trade unions as it battles to secure petrol supplies following weeks-long strikes.
There are 2 main reasons for the strike. The first is that our colleagues from other groups have been on strike for 16 days without any response from the general management of Total. So there is a complete block of discussions and dialogue. And then, the second point is that the threats of requisition that were evoked by the Born government yesterday is an unacceptable infringement of the constitutional right.
The US President Joe Biden has warned that Washington faces a decisive defeat in its competition with China. This comes as the White House rolled out a long-delayed national security strategy on Wednesday that seeks to contain China's growth, with re-emphasizing the importance of working with allies to tackle challenges confronting democratic nations. Civil society groups reject Haiti Prime Minister's call for external intervention, warning not to repeat same mistakes. With violence gripping the streets of the capital and no neighborhood safe from the insecurity wrought by armed gangs or critical shortages of fuel, everyone in Haiti's capital is living in a state of uncertainty. The United Nations Committee on the Rights of the Child has accused Finland of violating the rights of Finnish children by leaving them in life-threatening conditions in Syrian camps. The committee of 18 independent experts issued the finding on Wednesday after considering a case filed on behalf of 6 Finnish children at a whole camp in Syria's northeast region. Former journalist and opposition leader Salih Kabzouabou, or rather Kibzabou, has been appointed Prime Minister of Chad. The veteran politician was defeated in presidential elections on 4 occasions by Idriss Déby, or rather Déby, who ruled Chad for more than 3 decades until he was killed in April 2021. And now for more international news, let's follow this roundup by Murab Al-Aour.
At least 10,000 migrants, mostly Venezuelans, are stranded in a port city on the Colombian coast near Panama. They wait for boats to take them to the Central American border in the hope of eventually reaching the United States. According to the Colombian ombudsman, more than 150,000 people have crossed this year, an increase from the 134,000 migrants registered in 2021. The European Commission's President Ursula von der Leyen said on Wednesday that the EU has proposed to grant candidate status to Bosnia and Herzegovina. In its annual report on EU enlargement, the Commission said Bosnia should bolster democracy, the functionality of state institutions, the rule of law, tackle corruption and organized crime, guarantee media freedom, and migration management.
We have proposed to grant candidate status to Bosnia and Herzegovina in the college decision. We have recognized Georgia's European perspective too. So wind of change is once again blowing through Europe, and we have to capture this momentum. We have to push for this momentum. The Western Balkans belong in our family, and we have to make this very, very clear.
The German government on Wednesday slashed its growth forecast for this year and predicted that Europe's biggest economy would shrink in 2023 as it deals with the fallout from Russia's war in Ukraine, including Moscow cutting off natural gas supplies. The economy ministry said it expects Germany's gross domestic product to grow by 1.4% this year and then decline by 0.4% next year.
The figures were projected for 2023 in autumn still assume 2.5% growth. That's already a significant economic contraction, concentrated mainly in quarters 3 and 4 of this year and the first quarter of next year.
Hungary has agreed with Russia's Gazprom to reroute gas shipments to Hungary to the Turk Stream pipeline, with the sides also finalizing the terms of a deferred payment mechanism, according to Hungarian Foreign Minister. Under a 15-year deal signed last year, Hungary receives 3.5 billion cubic meters of gas per year via Bulgaria and Serbia under a long-term deal with Russia, and a further 1 billion cubic meter via pipeline from Austria.
To this end, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us. And for now, take care of yourself and bye-bye.